Welcome to Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to do something a little bit different. Now, if you're subscribed or watching my channel, then you know I talk about TV. I don't watch a lot of movies. However, I am up to something special today. There is a new movie releasing on digital today. It is called Grace Point. My friend Rory Karpf directed it, and Rory texted me the other day and said, "Hey, would you mind reviewing my movie?" And I said, "Sure, of course." Initially, I was like, oh no, what do you do when your friend asks to review a movie, and what if you don't like it? Of course, my integrity and authenticity dictates that I always give an honest review, and luckily, I really enjoyed the movie, so I've got a lot of positive things to say about it. But just to give some context on how I know Rory Karpf, I used to produce and sometimes co-host the Beverly Hills 90210 Show podcast with Pete Ferrero, Larry Mullen, and Charles Rosen, who were two of the original writers and executive producers on Beverly Hills 90210. That is how I got my start talking about television. I've always been endeared to 90s shows and really getting to learn from Pete and produce that show. I made so many great connections, including Rory Karpf. We did an episode called America's Zip Code, where we found a Beverly Hills 90210 fan from every single state. We brought them on to talk about the show. It was very cool. Rory ended up having a bunch of people from a bunch of different states, and so he really helped me get that show together. And so that is how we met. That's how we became friends. Rory is awesome. He's done a lot of the ESPN 30 for 30s. He's a very talented filmmaker, and he directed this film, Grace Point. It was made in 2023, but again, it is being released digitally today on January 28th. So if you are looking for a movie to watch, let's get into what this film is about. First of all, it is only an hour and 20 minutes long, which for me is perfect. There is nothing worse than a movie that just never ends when you're just looking at your watch like, okay, what next? I already know what's going on here, or I'm just not very into this story. So the first thing I loved about Grace Point was 1 hour and 20 minutes. The movie stars Andrew McCarthy and John Owen Lowe. So John Owen Lowe is actually Rob Lowe's son. I had watched their show Unstable on Netflix and really enjoyed it. So once I saw that he was in this movie, I said, okay, this is very cool. Not only that, but Andrew McCarthy also stars, who you may know from The Brat Pack. He was in St. Elmo's Fire, Weekend at Bernie's, Pretty in Pink. He also recently made the Bratz documentary. Those two are the leads, and they play a father and son. Andrew McCarthy plays John Owen Lowe's father, and his son is Brandon. From a young age, we see flashbacks where he was struggling with the loss of his mom in a car accident. He struggled with addiction and really got to a breaking point where the movie starts off and he and his dad are in the car. His dad is driving him to rehab. But things go wrong. Brandon wants to actually stop at a gas station because he says he has to pee. But he did not have to pee. He actually still had some drugs in his pocket and goes into the bathroom to use them. But chaos ensues and his dad gets shot, tells him to run away. And boy, does he run. He books it. And it's funny because at the beginning of the movie, we saw some running. There was some biking involved. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, is this going to be a full triathlon? Are we going to see the run, bike, swim? And yes, indeed, folks, we do. He does, in fact, run, bike, and swim in this movie, and goes through quite a few obstacles and situations to, first of all, try to get to the bottom of his dad's death. Who are these people at the gas station who shot him? Why are they chasing him? What is actually going on in this strange town called Grace Point? We meet a character named Sophie at the gas station, and one of the little details that I really loved was the way she was chewing gum. Now, it sounds like a small detail, but something about the manner in which she was chewing that gum, immediately I'm like, something nefarious about this gum chewing. Now, gum chewing, by all counts, should be a pretty innocuous, innocent thing, but I could tell there was something up with Sophie, and indeed there was. So this is an independent film, right? It's not a big budget film. Rory really did well using the resources that he had, and the attention to detail throughout this, from the gum chewing to the slight sway of the grass to the beautiful establishing shot, the way that the music builds dramatic tension, the way that silence is interspersed into some of the flashbacks. These little details add so much to the film And yeah, it gets off to a little bit of a slow start, but being that I watch a lot of these psychological thriller TV shows, I am used to a slow burn as long as the payoff is good. And it was here. There is a twist. I am not going to give it away quite yet, but it is very smart. And what I will say is, I figured it out, I'm going to say maybe 3/4 of the way through, but I think I figured it out at just the right time. They gave us just enough breadcrumbs to kind of see what was going on. And then once it all clicks, you're like, oh wow, this is really cool. You didn't have to sit with knowing what it was too long, because then I immediately started thinking and replaying things in my head like, oh, well, if this is the reality, then what about this? Or how did that happen? Or why? Or all of these questions were raised in my mind. But everything got such a nice bow ending. There was nothing left up in the air, nothing left open to interpretation. And there's nothing I like more than watching an hour and 20-minute movie that gives me the bow ending, that keeps me entertained with a solid twist. Even just the sound design, the animal noises, the visuals of animals. I mean, we could hear an owl, we had a horse at one point, the snake in the grass. All of those little details really did add some substance to this film, which again is a lower budget independent film, but paying attention to those painstaking little details just add layer after layer to a really smart concept. John Owen played this part really well. I think he is still maybe getting a little bit of his acting legs, and I'm hesitant to use the N-word, Nepo baby, but he is. Good for him though for getting these roles. And I do think he is quite the up-and-comer. As I mentioned, I did watch him and Rob's show on Netflix called Unstable. I believe it had 2 seasons. Very entertaining. Could this be the vessel that really launches John Owen into another movie role? Because I think he is going to be one to watch. Now, when the movie opened, we see Brandon running. Again, I mentioned the run, bike, swim. Yes, there is a triathlon that happens in this movie. And then we flash to 4 days earlier, which is really when we get into the meat and potatoes of the story. As I mentioned, we had Brandon running through the woods, trying to escape from these people chasing him. Eventually, he meets a guy in the woods named Cut, who kind of helps him, takes him in a little bit, and ends up really trying to help him actually get away from these bad guys. But now I'm going to go into the twist. So if you haven't watched the movie yet, I recommend you turn this off and then come back to the video. It turns out the big reveal is this whole situation was manufactured from the start, and this is the rehab. I mean, talk about taking trauma, turning it into an experience, and being able to successfully come out the other side with a better mindset, with a better perspective, and seemingly not wanting to use drugs. He was given the opportunity at one point in here to use the drugs and stay in this town and stay in the community and do whatever he wanted, be high all the time, stay with the girl Sophie, who obviously they have a thing between them. But you know what? Instead, he throws the drugs in this guy's eyes and escapes, continues to run. And this rehab program has been running before. They mentioned there have been other cases, but something they were not expecting was Brandon to jump down the actual quarry and escape from them, almost injuring himself. I am curious if he did his own stunt there or not. I will have to ask Rory. But the fervor in which this character is intent on escaping and the emotion along the way, starting to really put some of the emotional pieces together and really start to appreciate his dad more, thinking this whole entire time that his dad could be laying dead somewhere. His biggest concern is, please, make sure my dad gets to the hospital. And there was a big strain in this father-son relationship, which probably started back when Brandon's mother was killed. There was a line in there, don't judge a person by their worst mistake. And actually, that hit me really hard for personal reasons. I actually started crying a little bit because there are some situations in life where it is difficult with people you love when they do make mistakes, especially in this case where it ended in death. And that is something that Brandon carried with him for his whole life. But you can see his dad loves him. His dad wants what's best for him. He went through all of this trouble and paid a lot of money for his son to go through this rehab experience. And you know what? It worked. When I figured out and it clicked that this was actually the rehab, I was like, Rory, that is such a smart twist. And then watching as everything kind of came to fruition. But I think my favorite part was the 6-month flash forward. Brandon was given the opportunity to stay and help with future missions. And you know what? He did. Now, whether he stayed permanently, I'm not sure of. But when he popped up behind the counter, when the next person going to this rehab comes in asking for cigarettes, which is how it started with Brandon, and then he pops up and I mean, come on, full circle moment right there. I loved it. The way that he works through his trauma, the way he greets his dad when the door is opened, and the hug, and the natural anger and resentment for his dad having put him through this unknowingly. Hey, I get that, but you know what? He's able to really overcome that and see through it to say, hey, you know what? My dad loves me, and this actually worked. Something I really felt were some understated Shutter Island vibes. When you have somebody here where the audience eventually knows that they're going through something that they don't realize that they're going through, that is really smart. And if you're able, like me, to get 3/4 of the way through this and really not figure out what's going on, setting that table for the reveal, and then when the viewer does figure it out, and like I said, replaying different things in my mind, my first thought was, well, how did they know that this was the gas station they were going to stop at? He just picked some random gas station because his son had to pee. The level of logistics for this rehab place to go through these missions, I mean, come on, they've got so many people on it. From the person that Brandon ran into in the cabin that said, hey, you need to go run through the woods, from the girl Sophie, who is a plant at the gas station. And it seems to me like Brandon got a happy ending. And in my mind, I'm going to say he stayed at that community. He takes a part in these missions, and him and Sophie ended up happily ever after. His dad comes to visit from time to time, and now he's a part of this thing that really helped to heal him. If you are looking for a psychological thriller movie that's not too long, a little bit of a slow burn, but with a very smart twist, if you're at this point of the video, you've probably already watched it. So in that case, I would love if you would chime in below in the comments. Let me know what you think. What was your favorite part of the movie? What were some of the highs and the lows? Did you like John Owen Lowe and Andrew McCarthy in these roles? And again, I just want to give props to independent filmmakers who can pull off something like this that is visually stunning, that's got a smart story, a very strong twist, to be able to make a finished product like this without one of these large blockbuster film budgets. Props to you, my friend Rory. I am really proud of you for this film, and I hope everybody enjoys it as much as I did. Be sure that you check out Grace Point. It is on demand digitally, starting today, so do not miss it. Thank you so much for watching. I know this is a little bit different than what I normally do, but because it is one of my friends, because this movie is in the same genre, and also because I really enjoyed John Owen Lowe's TV show Unstable, I am so here for this, and I really appreciate you watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I cover a lot of dark television shows that are psychological in nature, very much like this thriller movie. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again soon. Media Melanie, clicking off.